Welcome to Loving God and Loving Life. In John chapter 19, we find one of the saddest, heartbreaking chapters. Our Lord is crucified. He places his mother, Mary, in John's care. These are the things we see on the cross. He dies, and his side is pierced with a spear, and he is buried in the tomb of Joseph of Arimathea. Just before the crucifixion, in this trial here of the second trial he has with Pilate, just to me, an amazing thing is said that just gives me courage and strength. Here he is, Jesus is talking to really the only man in Jerusalem who ultimately has the natural physical authority to say yes or no to Jesus' life or death. So this is the guy. Pilate has Jesus in his hands, at least that's in Pilate's mind. But Jesus isn't responding to Pilate's questions. So Pilate says, "Why don't you talk to me?" Pilate demands. And then Jesus goes on. Well, Pilate goes on and says, "Don't you realize I have the power to release you or to crucify you?" I don't know if Jesus smirked, but at least internally, he's like, "Pilate, you're getting a little big for your britches here." He says, Jesus said to him, "Pilate, you would have no power over me at all unless it were given to you from above." Jesus he lived his whole life this way. He was just 100% convinced that whatever was in his face, whatever life brought to him, was not some random accident, that this was a part of the test of life, and he was going to respond in faith every time. And he knew that nothing was put in his face on accident. And yes, he was in Pilate's hand. But he realized that that was because God put him there. And he realized that God ultimately had a plan that Pilate wasn't and didn't have the ability to change. Jesus knew that he was going to be crucified. He knew that was God's plan for him to bear the sins of the world. He knew that Pilate couldn't stop that. Interestingly enough, after this, Pilate tried to stop it. He couldn't do it. He couldn't stop it. Some natural ways that played out, but ultimately he couldn't stop it because it was the will of God. And friends, I hope you have that confidence. I do. It's not that I'm as important as Jesus. That's not the point. I just serve the same God. And this God brings life to me. Nothing's accidental. And will certain things have power over me? Will there be some suffering? Absolutely. But it's not an accident, and it's not random, and I'm rejoicing in God the whole way, and there's a good plan through it all, and I'm not going to allow circumstances and people with power to intimidate me. I'm in God's hand. And I'm going to watch God do his will in my life. God, use me for your glory. God, today, send me one person today to share your love with. Friends, I hope you never forget, loving God is the way to live a life that you love.